A warm welcome from Amsterdam, and thanks for tuning in to a new episode of Game Consultant. Your host of today is Reinout.
It is Sunday, August the 9th, and welcome to Game Consultant. This week, it was an interesting week. First of all, here in Europe, we got a heat wave. Lots of people complaining, but hey, soon it will be dark and rainy, so cheer up. It was also the week of Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, who actually is attacking TikTok, its operation in the US. We don't know yet what is the outcome of it, but I got a few people that contacted me and said, what are your thoughts about it? I only have one thought. There was this one line that I actually read. And President Donald Trump is concerned of army people that are using TikTok. And that data could actually fall in the wrong hands. Well, define good hands. In any case, I was also thinking about Tencent. Tencent, who is shareholder in dozens of gaming companies with really solid hits that are actually hitting the US and hitting the US Army. So what about that data? Anyways, my thoughts. This week we have GamingMalta, Malta and Gaming as I call it. Ivan is explaining to me how the government of Malta is trying to build up a gaming ecosystem and is also attracting gaming companies and not sack gaming companies to have your headquarters there, but it could also be divisions. Think about customer care, think about development, etc., etc. But we also talk about the strategic position of Malta throughout history and how actually Malta could be the entrance for the Middle East, the MENA region. And to that said, I have an interview with Tim of Tomatum, the episode after this. So quite nice. Next to that, I have the second part of my interview with Eitan Reisel of Vgames, Vgames.vc. I always have to get used to it, but I like the name, Vgames.vc. It's a new gaming fund, and I was lucky to already get in touch with a few people that were asking, hey, what is an interesting gaming fund? Well, there you go, Vgames and Eitan. So that's the second part. But let's first start with Ivan, GamingMalta. Here we go. So for a lot of years, I'm actually going on a holiday, and it's going to be to Malta. Fun place, sunny, sometimes a little bit too hot for a Dutchman. But I've come to learn a lot about Malta, but also gaming in Malta. And obviously, a lot of people do know the country itself has a lot of things to do with gambling, but there is more diversity coming to the islands. Today I'm talking to Ivan, and Ivan is responsible for GamingMalta Foundation. Hello, Ivan.
Hey, Reinhard, and thank you for inviting me on the podcast.
Yeah, you're very much welcome. It's our third try, because we got sort of a sound through it. I thought you were in a helicopter, and you thought like I was on a Concorder or something. Well, first of all, if you can give me a little bit of a background about you, and right away jump into it. GamingMalta Foundation.
Okay, so basically, I run a non-profit foundation, which is GamingMalta, which basically is a foundation set up by government and by the Malta Gaming Authority. Just a bit of info about myself. I never worked in gaming prior to this. But I had always had marketing roles. I was head of marketing for a brewery, best job in the world you can ever get. I ran an advertising agency, and I always had, I was always in a marketing role. And then this job came up about 4 years ago to run the GamingMalta Foundation, which I said is a non-profit foundation set up by Malta Gaming Authority to promote Malta as a center of excellence. Yeah. So basically, we have a very clear North Star. We promote Malta's home of gaming excellence. And the idea why it's home, because, friends feel comfortable at home, families feel comfortable at home. If there are issues one can discuss, one can find solutions. And, we really try and provide that, to the broader gaming ecosystem within the island.
Yeah, nice.
And also, as you referred to initially, yes, we are also an iGaming jurisdiction. I mean, iGaming accounts for 13% of GDP, with about 7,000 people working in that sector here. But what we established to do is we started looking at the wider view of gaming, and this is where our video gaming and esports strategy came to fore about 2 years ago. And we embarked on a journey basically which we love and which we do with missionary zeal, I would say, Reynolds. So we're very, very we're very, I would say, ambitious in a good way in this sector.
Yeah. I love it how you say Malta. I say Malta and you say Malta. Yeah. Sorry, the rest of the story was also very good, but I was actually thinking, like, you say it's very nice. It makes me really like, okay, I feel invited. Malta.
Welcome to Malta.
Exactly. So if you can explain a bit, like, okay, so what is it that you do on a day-to-day basis? Are you attracting gaming companies? Are you going out there telling about Malta? Yeah, obviously you talk about Malta, but what would, for example, if a CEO is listening, or a chief financial, or whatever, a studio in general, what makes it interesting?
Okay, so basically, as Gaming Malta, we would be the first port of call, okay, for any video game or esports organization to come to Malta. So let me just give you some background to this. So basically, we've been tasked. So we are part of government. So we are a government entity. And as a government entity, we fall under the Ministry of Finance and the Junior Parliamentary Secretary for the Digital Economy and Financial Services, which includes blockchain, artificial intelligence, VR, etc. So essentially the ministry responsible for the digital economy. Now, 2 years ago, we, as I said, set on a mission on the video gaming front. So Gaming Malta wrote and is spearheading the strategy for the growth of video gaming and esports on the island. And so we work essentially with the government stakeholders and also with with the gaming ecosystem to produce a product which would attract studios to Malta, including very much on the educational front also, but maybe that's something that we can talk about later also. So really, essentially, that's what to do. Once they speak to us, then we will connect, with all the right people and with all the right public entities, facilitating the move towards Malta.
Yeah. And is there any fiscal advantage, for example? Because we know that Ireland had that. Even Holland is doing such. Luxembourg. Is that in the same way with Malta?
Yes. So basically, what there are, fiscal and tax advantage also. It's not something that we go and harp about because we believe that the ecosystem isn't just made up from the fiscal incentives, but yes, there's a very attractive corporate tax rate in Malta. Also, for people working in the video gaming sector, there's also an attractive rate when it comes to income tax for people earning 55,000 plus on their I think, which is even less than that. So we're creating all these fiscal measures, which I would say they are in the silver bullet, though, Reinhard. I would say it will be the sum of all the parts, rather, which will make it attractive.
It's icing on the cake.
Yeah, that's icing on the cake purely, and I feel very strongly about that. So what we're doing is we want to build a video game and esports ecosystem. When we talk about an ecosystem, is having the right companies here, having the right consultants, the right legal advisors, the right corporate advisors, underpinned by a very strong educational background when it comes to video gaming sector also. Yep. So we want to establish that. Yep. Are we there yet? We're moving towards that. We are still, I very humbly would say, whilst in iGaming we will be seen as the Silicon Valley for the iGaming sector, the video gaming sector. I always say that I always make the difference between when we started in iGaming back in 2004, it was blue ocean strategy for Malta.
Yeah.
We joined the EU, we're the first country to regulate iGaming, etc. When it comes to video gaming, we're very much still red ocean strategy. So basically, there are other jurisdictions who are, right enough, maybe more advanced than we are. But I think we're making headway and we're making progress. Considering we took part in Gamescom, first time was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Now we've seen an increase in numbers also in companies operating from here. It's a young ecosystem, So basically, you're looking around about just over 200 full-time equivalents here.
Yeah.
Okay, working in video gaming. You're looking at plus or minus 15 to 18 companies right now, which is growing, which you're looking from AAA studios like 4A Games. You're looking at companies who are, I would say, advanced startup. People like Narc, who moved over from Iceland into Malta, and they set up a location here. Yep. Companies from Tunisia, companies from the UK like Exient. They have the Sony IP for Lemmings and the Angry Birds on mobile. So there are a number of interesting companies operating. Play Magic from Italy, currently also moving to larger studios here, employing around about 4 to 5 people. So it's quite interesting. I mean, considering the size, there's quite a mix, I would say. Quite a mix. And what really gives me pleasure, I know, and this is, beyond, this is why beyond fiscal intensity, is the community really looks out for each other and they help each other.
Yeah.
And they feel comfortable living here. They feel comfortable talking to us on any issues, which they might have. And we try as much as possible, to provide at least to be the catalyst for those solutions.
Yep.
And so we are on a mission, right? We're still on a mission.
Yeah. It's funny because, a friend of mine, Pascal Clarice, I also put him in contact with people in Malta. He has a company, Big Karma. And it's all about action heroes to overcome disability to win. That comes from his personal background. He's very, very into this. And he's also now in touch to have his company from Colombia actually located in Malta. Yeah. So nice.
And that's something, so we're talking about serious games here, right? Serious games. That is something where I feel that Malta, we can take, it could be the stage for the sector. Recently we took part in the Games for Change festival in New York. Yeah. Okay, obviously it was a virtual event. And it's amazing, when you see, the serious games channels and opportunities that there are, where games are used for education, games are used for health reasons, etc. Yeah. And I must say, I mean, hats off to them also, because it was a super eye-opening experience for us. Yep. Also. And, this is something, actually today, the Times of Malta is actually running a story about us, taking part in this festival, because it's really getting a lot of traction around, and we are the ones who promote that conversation. Yeah. So, there are a lot of these things going on right now. Yeah.
You, actually, I was looking at a demo day at Hyped. Hyped Esports, the aggregator incubator. And you mentioned something like there will be an esports location environment. You're developing something on the island.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just give you some background to that. When we talk about esports, there's already an esports ecosystem here. Okay. Yeah. So we have people like World Pro Racing, who are getting a lot of international recognition for virtual car sim racing. Yeah. people like gamers.com who started off from college and now run a fully fledged esports organization here. Level Academy, for example, who are very much involved also on the educational front of esports. We now have the American University of Malta also giving out, or rather promoting scholarships also when it comes to esports and esports athletes.
Yeah.
And also one of Malta's largest entertainment groups, Eden. So they own the Intercontinental Hotel and an indoor arena and cinemas, etc. Also investing in their own esports company. So it's Eden Esports. So we started off there from a good base. What we needed also for Malta was to have a lighthouse brand, basically here, an international recognition. And actually, it was a conversation I had with, which led me to meet another guy from Holland. So a Dutch guy called Jaap Visser, who's actually the managing director of ESL and Benelux.
Yeah.
That's it.
I know.
So that led us to signing an MOU with ESL. Memorandum of understanding. And we're working towards, a partnership whereby it isn't just about ESL having events here in Malta, but also in helping to build, the ecosystem, the local heroes and the zero to hero, all this philosophy around esports, and also the educational part. So I think that was a very important step for us also. It was unfortunate, Reynard, that the ESL Pro League season 11 was about to happen in Malta.
Yeah.
So I think it was March 16th when I had to make probably one of my most difficult calls, and calling Jaap and telling him, because all the teams were in Frankfurt airport waiting to board the plane to come to Malta. And the airport closed the same day by midnight.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
And all that, because of COVID, and 2 years of work basically, went up in the air. But nonetheless, I mean, the fact that, and this is really interesting, the fact that it still happened online, and we all know the numbers. They had, ESL had, record-breaking numbers for that season, showed also, the resilience and, of the esports industry. And that, probably people who wouldn't stay at home to watch an esports final, they stayed at home and watched an esports final. Yeah. So, and in all of that, Malta, gained a lot of, very good coverage there.
Yeah.
So we're going to building. What we're doing is that looking at by next year, we are building a 700 square meter incubator space for video gaming and esports startups. Okay.
Yeah.
We're very good also fans of the Dutch Game Garden also.
Yeah.
I always have to be careful of how to say that, because it normally comes out as the Dutch Beer Garden.
Well, they drink beer there.
But JP there is doing a great job, a tremendous job.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to visit that. Yes, passionate and very and doing it in a good way and a proper way. Yeah. And hats off to them. So we're building this video game and esports incubator space, which will hopefully help companies, building around the ecosystem, also with educational channels of how to run businesses, getting speakers to talk there, etc. Within there's going to be a 250-seated capacity conference area, which we're planning also to use for small esports events also.
Yeah.
So I think the next 3 to 5 years should be very interesting in that regard. Yeah.
Hey, and for example, in Holland, we do have that's called the RVO. That's supporting entrepreneurs. In Finland, it's called Business Finland. It used to be Tekes. Is Malta government also doing something with, I show up, I basically say, hey, I have a few angel investors, I've collected or gathered 500K. Does Malta then say, hey, we can also give a sort of a grant or a loan or whatever you call it?
Yes. So, that is something which we're actively looking at. We're looking at, that's very much work in progress. Okay. Yeah. Also, probably I would say that was one of the most difficult things to do, because it's, investing in video games, I always say it's like the music or the film business, right? You get, you always have your hit and misses.
Yep.
And we have to be responsible of the fact that ultimately we're dealing with public finances here.
Yep.
And we have to make sure that everything is done in the most correct way possible, and having something which ultimately shows that business is being generated through this. But yes, that is something I can say that we're actively looking at. We're surrounded by great people who are helping us, people like Dan Licari, which I'm sure who's helping us on that front. And it's incredible when we started launching the strategy. So many people were living already in Malta who used to work in the video gaming sector. It was incredible. Who wouldn't know? Either they kind of semi-retired here, or they run their business from here, and to the European within other European jurisdictions, and people who have reached out genuinely because they've kind of people fall in love with the island. Yeah. And generally they want to really help. They want to really help and make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to that. I love the island.
So that was the first part of the interview with Ivan, Gaming Malta. And actually the second part is really interesting. But as said, I think it's better to do it in two pieces. Otherwise it gets too long. As said, link is also to Ivan's LinkedIn and to the website of GamingMalta.org. So if you're interested, if you are considering of relocating either your division, your headquarters, or whatsoever, then reach out to Ivan or send me an email and I'll put you in contact with him. Next up is Eitan Reisel with Vgames.vc, a new kid on the block when it comes to funding for games. So we pick up on the second part with Eitan, Vgames, and it's all about games and funding. Let's do this.
Funny story to that. During my Spill Games time, we were looking at a German site, and it was called Spielaffe. It means play ape. Give it a name. And that site did really well. So they have youngsters playing, let's say, anything between 6 and 12 years old. And their top 10 was actually filled with Korean games. And I checked out these games, and they had no German, no English, no whatsoever. They were actually Korean languages. And I think the intuitive way how they developed the artwork made it for kids enjoyable. So they knew where to click on and just play the game without understanding any text which they saw on the screen. And I think that's the most important part. Like, you sort of get sucked into a game intuitively. I mean, yeah, obviously we can read when it's English or your local language, and then you click on it. 100%. But yeah, it's the color.
I agree more. I think, and that goes back to what I said, right? If you have people stuck to your game and they enjoy it and they want to come back and play, you'll find the way to monetize them. If you're going to look for the way to monetize them and you don't make sure that they come back, one, you're going to, find yourself paying endless amount of money to buying these users, and, you're going to have to continue buying them as long as the life cycle of the game exists. And two, right, 100%. Like, you really have to fight for people there's so much noise out there. I don't know if we're going to cover the pandemic a little bit and what happened to playtime, etc. But I think, it's a good testimonial. If you have people enjoying your game, everything else will come in place.
Well, let's talk about the pandemic. I mean, I've said it many times. Microsoft came out with their Xbox years ago and said, like, yeah, we're going to be the entertainment center in the living room. We all had to laugh and say, like, yeah, right. It took a pandemic, a corona, a COVID, to make that statement actually become sort of reality, because obviously people have been stuck in their homes with the families, closer, homeschooling. Obviously homeschooling needed to be also become a bit of fun. They needed to, kids needed to do something else. And then you say like, okay, so go play a game. But you, as parents, I think you had more insights about what your kids were actually doing, either on the console or on the mobile. And we've seen things go up like playtime. We've seen streaming. We've seen people search for new content. I mean, if you look at the top 10s in YouTube, that suddenly began to change. Not the usual suspects, but different kind of. I don't know where I saw it, but I was it Twitch or I think it was Twitch, and you saw actually the most watched channels on Twitch were actually from Portuguese, so most likely Brazil, some French. It's actually languages or people from countries that you wouldn't expect to be in the top 10. You basically would expect Asians, Americans, whatever. So it means people are now really searching for content, but also they are feeling comfortable to search. They feel comfortable to view. They feel comfortable to play. So what thoughts do you have? I mean, what have you seen?
So I think I agree with everything you said, and I'll emphasize my point of view. Right? I think that the pandemic taught us two things. I think one, in terms of the world of games, it probably fast forwarded us, 2 to 3 years in terms of consumption. But for sure, games is here to stay, and I think it is the biggest source of entertainment today. And you know what? I think it's also an important player because it makes people happy, and it's important, as I say all the time, also to my portfolio companies and co-investors. I think we're privileged, right? We're in crazy times in the world, and we're really privileged, and we have to remember that we're privileged. To be able to build and fuel content that at the end of the day people enjoy and love and they come back to, etc. I think the second part is, and I actually had a very interesting talk with one of the CEOs of one of the largest publishers today. I think one of the biggest things that came out or still are coming out is, and you saw it in growth and playtime. Actually, if you look at the total numbers, then mobile is still leading, but growth, PC and consoles did grow more than in mobile, and it just shows you how today the content is king and the platforms are commodity. What do I mean? People want to play, right? Yeah. He actually said they'll play on their toaster. I totally agree with that, right? They'll play wherever. Just give them good content and make sure that they can play and they can move on with the game, right? Don't stick them to one platform, because then you're just giving them the wrong content experience. Forget about the platform experience, right? And I think that's something that the big tech companies will have to digest, right? The isolation will start breaking down a little bit. And I think we are starting to see movements in that place, right? Different consoles talking to each other, different VR and AR sets talking to each other. But I think, my observation is, it's today we ask, where are you going to invest? Mobile, consoles, PC, etc. I think that's going to blend, and content is really king. Like, we want to build games that people can just enjoy. If you're at home, why not use a larger screen? Lay back. You don't have to sit with whatever inch you have on your mobile phone, and enjoy the content. While you're commuting, you can enjoy the same content on a smaller screen and maybe with more limited stuff that you can do physically. Yeah. But I think that's my number one observation. And of course, the fact that games is, I really think that games is only starting. I think we're going to see education pouring into this. Yeah. We've actually been approached lately by many healthcare startups that are looking for this angle as well, right? Again, because once there's humor and there's entertainment in it, I think it's easier to serve it to the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, educational gaming, when you make it more entertaining, it turns out that they digest the learnings much better than boring books or whatsoever. Yeah. I mean, but you said something very interesting. So console, PC, they're actually rising again. All these years we've seen actually decline. That's basically what they were saying. Mobile wasn't growing fast enough to pick up the decline of console. But obviously, I always felt like, console games were getting free. You didn't have to pay for it anymore. And the ones that you still had to pay for, they were not as expensive anymore. But I think also important to that, love to pick your brains on it. The cross-platform. I mean, you can now develop a game that can be played on mobile, PC, and console. I mean, that is sort of coming to the party right now too, right?
Totally. Again, I think when you're a young developer and you're just starting, and you're starting and you're kicking off your new studio, and you have this amazing game and you're working on it, I think today still the platforms are difficult to say I want to be on everything from day one.
Yeah.
And I think it's a different economy, and it's a different monetization, and it's a different marketing technique, etc.
Yeah.
But for sure, if you look at building a game and getting it out there versus building another one, or taking this first game and making sure your content is served in many places, I don't know if there's right or wrong, but of course that has to be a consideration in every game and for every developer. I think, Unity is a good example. Unity, I think today it's never a button, but it's almost a button, and you can be on Amazon. Why not, right?
Yeah.
Why not, if you're on Android and iOS, why not be on Amazon, right? Kindles is survive. I think Amazon are putting a lot of efforts into their store. It's another screen. If people have, their devices, amazing. Nintendo is now the new rising star, right? I actually bought my wife one for her last birthday. I don't know if it was a present for myself or for her, but it's
honestly, she's not using it.
I think my kids are enjoying it most, but we all play Super Mario and compete with each other. But I totally. I think the world of consoles is going to really migrate into, and I think, let me say one more thing here. When you come to a developer, and I actually saw this, even taking on Google's hat for a second, you tell them, okay, Google is coming out with Stadia, come build a game for our platform. The first thing the developer will say is, one, fund it for us, because, with all due respect to you, we're not going to fund it. We don't know how to monetize. And two, the second question will be, how are we going to monetize this game, right? If you're going to invest now endless amount of resources, how are you going to make money? And, and that's a big question, because you're coming out with a new platform. It's still not a commodity. You're limited in the amount of people that are enjoying it. And then it is a chicken and egg, but it's not a chicken and egg. The content will win, right?
Yeah.
The platforms want to be popular. They have to have good content on their platforms. Actually, another thing we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of these tech companies starting to buy studios. We actually analyzed this. There were like more than $2 or $3 billion last year invested, or M&A stuff that happened by the tech giants of buying content players. And I think all this will drill down to a much more open world of, building content and really easing down the path of being on as many platforms as possible. Yes, it is something that the developers have to think more of. I think today you see very naturally, we're mobile developers. We only focus on mobile. We'll build Android, iOS, and that's where we'll play, at least on the Western side of the world. I think that's going to change. I think we're going to see big companies really or dramatically change on that front.
Let's go back to if developers are approaching you. I mean, how does the process look like? You basically send an email, you receive it. What would you ideally like to receive initially from a game developer?
Yeah, so we just I'll share here my private experience. We just went public with the fund, and there was beautiful PR and really great coverage, and again, really being I think the coverage that we got is not because we're very unique. I hope we are unique, but I think it was a necessity in our market.
Yeah.
And then then I just checked. I have 1,200 LinkedIn messages.
I'm not surprised. That's why I'm asking the question.
And
it's
then,
like, there's a game fund. Oh, where? What is his email address? Info at Vgames.vc.
Actually, I contacted part of my co-investors and said, "Why didn't you tell me this?" No, but I that's part of our job. I'm saying it's cynical, but it really is part of our job. And I think at the end of the day, we are financial investors, right? There has to be a good outcome to my investors, right? I think it's part of and I think that's also part of how the mechanism should work, because that means that we're putting our money behind teams that can really build big companies. So we're very easy here. We have our website. There's a contact form. I do ask companies that want to talk to me, and there's going to be another team member joining soon, so we can really meet more and more companies. Yes, to send investment decks. I think an investment deck is, and I'm actually going to set a blog post of what I think investment decks and game companies should look like. Especially if you have metrics and initial metrics and, you can show them to us. I think that will bring us much more prepared to the conversation. But in general, I think an investment deck really, really swaps between a team that's passionate about building something really cool to a team that really wants to build a company and, they want to get funded. And, it has to make you think about what your budget is, how your growth strategy is, even if it's initial, right? I'm happy to work with them, but it will give me a little perspective or initial perspective on how they look at things. But besides that, it may take us time, but we're really going to try to meet as many as possible. I must tell you, I learn from every meeting. I try to give a piece of advice carefully because I think sometimes as investors, we're taking too seriously. So only my perspective, I wouldn't even call it advice. But yeah, and we're here to, we're putting our money behind our words. The fund is active. I said we did our closing at the end of March, and we're soon going to have 5 investments. In 4 months, we did 5 investments. So I think, we're here to invest. We're not here just to talk about it.
Yeah. And sort of a time frame. I mean, if I send an email today, let's say it takes a week for you to go through it.
I'll respond. Well, we'll respond in 48 hours, not more than that.
Yeah.
Meeting may take a little bit longer, really depending on the materials, right? Because we do prioritize based on, what we get and how interesting we think it is for us as investors.
Yeah.
And then I'll send you a link and you can schedule time and we'll spend some time together. We'll start with a 30-minute or 45-minute introduction call. And if we see that there's a, good karma in place and mutual interest, then we'll find a way to follow on with that.
Yeah.
Between interest and investments, it can take us 2 weeks. We're, very fast.
Yeah. And in terms of lead, how should people look at you? Are you taking the lead, and will you then say like, hey, we love to see some angels around it from the local area? For example, if you are in Poland and it's 500K, would you say, okay, we can do 300, 400K and raise the rest with some smart guys that are aware in your territory, that are close to you, or?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very important question, and I'm really happy you're asking. So one, I'm always happy to co-invest. I only co-invest with people that believe in games. I think that that understand games. That's a better word.
Yeah.
I think investing with amazing investors that less understand this space, which is a content, winning, fast speed drive space that's not for everybody. I think it's important, especially in the early days. You want people that can not only add value, but understand that there needs to be patience in the world of games, because it is a content play, right?
Yeah.
You're producing a game. So in Israel, we're happy to lead. We're happy to do anything. Abroad as well, in markets that even in terms of, corporate governance and stuff like that, I may prefer doing a co-investment or joining, and letting other investors who are more aware of the tax rules and anything that's surrounding that, to make sure that they cover the right points. This is where we are today. It may change in a year or two, right, after we do some deals and we're more acquainted with other markets. I can tell you that in specific markets, actually in Poland specifically, we're already building that capability where we can lead and do rounds ourselves as well. And we're not waiting for specific opportunities, because I think that, again, if you want to put, money behind your words, you have to make sure that you have the right infrastructure. So an example, we have LPs in the fund from Poland who are supporting us with this effort. And I think that's important as well. So,
So for last question, for 2020, you basically said you want to close 3, 4, 5 more. Do you specifically? Well, no. Let me rephrase the question. Any platform that you're looking at this moment more specific? I mean, I think what you said, I mean, in Israel, you definitely have the mobile side of things covered. But is there any platform that right now would make you really happy if you would get a pitch deck?
I'm really anxious of doing a AAA investment, at least one by the end of this year. We're looking into a few, but for sure, if there are interesting opportunities out there, or founders or folks or teams that are building cool stuff, please do approach us. Totally. I think AAA is totally on our radar, and I'm one, a big fan, and two, I think I really want to do an investment in that space, which I haven't done yet, actually. Not personally, nor the fund. So.
Yeah, cool. I wanna thank you. I mean, some very nice insights, not only about the market of Israel, but also the focus area of your fund, and really happy that you're actually focusing on gaming. I think there should be more funds that have this focus. I think that's sort of the driver for the industry. As I just said, I mean, you need access in your local territory to create angels that can then push other entrepreneurs, gaming entrepreneurs, to higher grounds. And with that, then obviously the bigger investors VCs will then actually show up. Or at least you have a shot to raise more money.
Totally. I can say that a lot of our LPs are those folks who already built and sold big companies. And, for me, I'm privileged to have them because, they bring in not only money, but a lot of value and deal flow. Yeah. And I think it is an ecosystem that has to nurture itself. 100%, yes. People that already enjoy the success of games should come back and, one, continue building amazing companies, and two, support fueling the new generation. In games, at the end of the day, we're an M&A environment, right? Everybody, all the big ones are buying the smaller ones, we're buying the smaller ones, etc. So at some point, I'm sure that everybody will buy everybody. So
yeah, exactly. Well, it's consolidating. I mean, that's what I'm seeing anyways. I mean, and we might see anything soon anyways happening. But no, I'll leave it with that. I think it's enough. For everyone that is listening, I have the contact details of Eitan on my website, also a link to the site, so you can actually check them out. And I want to thank you for hosting together with me this episode.
Yeah, highly appreciate it. Really enjoyed it, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
So thank you, Eitan. It was really nice to have a chat with you. And what I said on the blog is really true. It's really refreshing to talk to someone that actually has been working with game developers, understands the challenges, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think all of that makes his experience and knowledge very interesting to get into discussions with him. If you're looking for funding, he will definitely understand what you will face in the upcoming periods, how you have to scale, what kind of trouble you might face ahead. But hey, that's where investors know it's a risky business. And I'm happy Eitan is on the block. So good luck with vgames.vc. I want to thank you for listening. As said, if you have questions about GamingMalta and Ivan, do send me an email or use the contact form. Don't forget, I also have news and insights. Oh, it's Sunday, guys. News and insights, so go through it. If you have news, send it to me. If you have background info about TikTok and President Donald Trump, then let me know. And otherwise, ciao for now.
This was all for today. Thanks so much for listening to Game Consultant. Tune in next week for a brand new episode. And remember, do share this podcast with other members of the games industry.